Wednesday, February 6, 2019, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today I want to just talk informally, as I usually do, I guess, about the petrodollar, what's going on in Venezuela, which I've spoken about before. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that country. Talk about President Trump and the hope that he's going to make America great again. And all this talk about Q. I think there's a lot of confusion, in my opinion. And you need to look at people's actions in order to see where things are going, in my opinion. Before that, of course, we'll have a quick look at what the markets are doing. 8:30 a.m. London time. So we've got spot gold 13.15.40. So holding on fairly steady here. The high's been 13.16.28 and 13.12.60. So a fairly narrow range. Silver 15.82, down 3 cents. Range has been 15.88 to 15.76. The Dow future is down 65, 25,333. The S&P 500 is down 8 or 1/3% at 27.28. The NASDAQ 100 future is down 1/3% as well, just below 7,000. So yeah, the stock markets have continued to stay fairly strong. It looks like the bottom in the end of December is the bottom for now. Is this just a dead cat bounce, a counter trend rally in a market that's going down? Yes, I still think so. What's going to make things turn around? I don't know. But I'm not convinced. The currencies, the pound yesterday dropped back below 130. We're now at 129.50, unchanged from late yesterday. Euro is down below 114, down a 0.1%, 113.89, and the dollar is down 0.25% against the yen, 109.66. The dollar is pretty much unchanged against the Chinese yuan at 676.80. Crude oil is drifting lower, back below 54 now, 53.57. So still pretty much range trading, maybe a little firmer in the last few days or so, or week. The bond market, and this is one of the reasons why I feel that the stock market rally we've had is more artificially driven more than anything. The 10-year yield is still fairly subdued at 268. That's down 2 basis points this morning. The 1-year T-bill yield to the 5-year T-note yield is now almost 6 basis points inverted. Yesterday was 4. You had, of course, the State of the Union address yesterday, and I'll play a little clip that RT actually put on at the State of the Union. It's quite interesting what President Trump says and his actions presently, towards other countries. And I have to reiterate, I'm not left nor right. Try to be self-reliant and not dependent on government for anything. I think that's the problem. People expect too much from presidents, from their representatives, from their senators, from their MPs, instead of looking after themselves. So to viewers that haven't followed me for a long time, if I would have to have a politician that I like, and I try not to get involved in politics, that would be Ron Paul. I met Ron Paul at the Mises Institute in 2002. He told a story about how he kept getting elected in a rural district in South Texas if he never voted for any of the bills that helped the region, helped farmers, because he always voted no for government spending or new programs. And he said, well, I always ask my constituents, you know, have things improved in the last 50 years with all the more and more government? And they always used to think and say, no, they haven't. So that's my philosophy for government. So I'm not a socialist, but when it comes to interfering in other sovereign countries' affairs, I think you need to lead by example. So I'll just play something here that Donald Trump said last night. This is from RT, and I'll play it here for you. He says,
in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country.
Well, I agree with that, right? Adopt socialism in our country. And I'll put a link to this, you know, clip up in the cards and in the description. And you can see at the end that Bernie Sanders does not clap, of course, at the end of this, you know, clip. But I'll continue.
America was founded on liberty and independence and not government coercion.
Well, there you go. America was founded on liberty and independence and not government coercion. But that also means, President Trump, no coercion, no government coercion of other countries, you know, like Venezuela or Syria or anywhere else, or Iraq. And, you know, that applies not to just President Trump, but past presidents. So I'll keep playing this.
Domination and control.
There you go. America is supposed to be free and independent from government oppression, from domination and control. And I agree completely with that. So what about Venezuela? Well, I made a video a few weeks ago because there is talk about how Venezuela is going down the socialist route. And it is, probably, you know, but I had a look at the numbers. And I looked at government spending, and it's on Wikipedia. And I have to say, my respect for Wikipedia has gone downhill because they've actually put down Juan Guaido as a disputed president of Venezuela. So they've got two guys as president, Maduro and Guaido. So, you know, we have to, you know, Wikipedia is making people presidents by fiat now. So I will use this for these numbers, but we need to be more and more vigilant about the truth, even with Wikipedia. So this shows the tax take, the first column, tax take by GDP by each country, and then, you know, government spending on the second column by GDP per each country. You can see the UK taxes 36%, you know, central government. Of GDP, and it spends 49% of GDP government spending. In the US, it's 25.1 and 41.6. But then, you know, you go down to Venezuela here, just below, which is convenient because it's quite near the UK and the US in this list. And you get tax as percentage of GDP in Venezuela, which is supposed to be a socialist pariah. That's 13%. And then government spending is 40%. Yes, you may argue, how come government is spending so much more than it's taking in? Well, it's probably because of the oil revenues or some of the money printing that's led on to hyperinflation. And I'm not like saying there's nothing wrong in Venezuela, but it is a sovereign country. And the US is nothing, the US or the UK or not any other European country, they should let the Venezuelans, you know, sort their problems out for themselves. And some of you know that I started subscribing to Economist a few months ago, just to see what the, you know, the enemy is saying, so to speak. And the cover for the latest one here is The Battle for Venezuela. And they got this Wikipedia president, you know, president that was declared by fiat by, I think it was Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State of the U.S., called him Juan Guido. He didn't even get his name right. The president of Uruguay couldn't get his name right. So the other thing I recommend people look at to see what's really going on there, and this YouTube channel, they are leftists. And I'm not a leftist, but sometimes you need to listen to this to see what's really going on. It's called Moderate Rebel, and they've got 2 videos, and I put them up in the cards as well and in the links. One is Economic Strangulation of Venezuela. That was a week ago. And 4 days ago, The Real Venezuela from Caracas, Professor Aline Piva. And you'll see what's really going on there, even though, of course, in the end of the day, we don't really know the ins and outs exactly. But what does The Economist say? Well, The Economist main article here, main leader, is about Venezuela. And this is what they say, and I'll read. If protests alone could oust the president, Nicolas Maduro would already be on a plane to Cuba. On January 23rd, at least 1 million Venezuelans from across the country took to the streets demanding Mr. Maduro step down. Well, you will see from this video, if you watch it, about The Real Venezuela on Moderate Rebel, this professor who is in Caracas, said that, yes, there's some thousands of people protesting, but there's also a lot of pro-Maduro protests. So I'm sorry, the Economist is either they're making, I'm not sure where they're getting this, but the other thing I would say, we've got, yesterday I saw that there are protests in Paris still. The yellow vests, there are also union people protesting in Paris yesterday. The yellow vest protest has gone on since November. Loads of people have died because of the protests. People have been shot with rubber bullets, gassed by the French government. And this is still going on, the yellow vests, even though we're not really, the media in the UK doesn't cover it. But why doesn't The Economist say if protests alone could oust the president, Emmanuel Macron would be already on a plane to, I don't know, to New York. And Gérard Depardieu or whoever should be, why doesn't Wikipedia put a disputed president of France? So that's the double standard. The other thing I would say about the Venezuela, of course, it's got, I think, almost 300 billion barrels of oil in reserves. And it's been dealing with other countries selling their oil in yuan. That could be one of the reasons why the Americans are so adamant about interfering in that country and changing regime. I mean, President Trump, he campaigned against all this, interfering in other countries. And here he is now calling for regime change. I mean, some people might say, oh, it's because he's been, taken over by the deep state. They're like bribing him or blackmailing him. I'm sorry, then he's not the president, really. He's got John Bolton, who's a neocon. So he's become a neocon, President Trump, I'm sorry to say. And if he really believed in small government and liberty, why is he increasing government spending? We've got trillion-dollar deficits. The national debt is going up. Why is he doing that? Why is he not ending the Fed? Why is he trying to help the Fed and the petrodollar in Venezuela? Because that's who it's going to help if you really, do regime change in Venezuela and let the American corporations come in and take over the oil. That's going to help the Federal Reserve, right? So all those people as well say, oh, Trump is going to end the Fed. Q says Trump is going to end the Fed. Well, he's not going about it the right way. I've been, I was happy when Trump beat Hillary Clinton, you know, and I'm not a socialist. I'm not anti-Trump, but we need to look at people's actions. And right now it's not looking great. Why does he negotiate with a guy who runs a totally closed country, totally dictatorial country like North Korea, but he won't negotiate with the president of Venezuela? Well, maybe it's because North Korea doesn't have 300 billion barrels of oil reserves. There you go. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Nothing is clear-cut as we think. And in the end of the day, you need to be very skeptical. If America is really for sovereignty, independence, no government interference, why don't they lead by example and leave Venezuela alone? Let the Venezuelan people decide what they want. You know, the experiments in trying to bring freedom to countries haven't been great, have they? Look at Iraq. Look at Vietnam. The Americans couldn't bring freedom to that country. They left, and now Vietnam is doing fine without the Americans interfering. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share it far and wide. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.